Hi, I'm Ross O'Brien with the Economist Corporate Network here in Hong Kong. I'm joined by Sean Vadnais, who's the Regional Service Director for enterprise mobility solutions firm DSI. We're here talking about the new planning conversation, how technology decision-making processes intersect and aid the business strategy process. It's a report and a thought leadership program sponsored by SAP, and I'm talking to Sean about how he sees technology decision fitting into the strategic planning mix. Sean, as we've been talking about, the CIO and the CEO are intimately familiar with each other's business processes, as it were. The CEO is technology literate in Asia and globally. The CIO is ever more involved in strategic processes. But there's still a disconnect. The CEO feels that they're the ultimate decision maker on technology solutions, and yet doesn't really distinguish between the technical implications. The CIO is perhaps overly confident in their role that they have in strategic planning. How do you square that circle? How does the enterprise today get the right level of input from both those senior executives?
Well, Ross, I think you kind of hit on something there, and that is these two roles, the CEO and the CIO, their domains sort of cross. CEOs understand the strategic vision of the company and the need for technology in that strategic planning, but the CIO's responsibility is for choosing and making decisions associated with that process, but they also understand the technology or the need for technology to expand their strategic vision. The problem is oftentimes CEOs and CIOs cross on the strategic vision perspective, but not necessarily understand the proper approach. The way I equate it is a CIO would look rather to solve an immediate problem and not necessarily consider the strategic plan, where the CEO sees the strategic plan but doesn't necessarily understand the problems of the immediate technology issue.
Right.
That's kind of how I would list it.
Now, the irony in all this is that certain technologies actually do impact and help accelerate the strategic decision-making
Yeah, exactly.
process.
Facilitate the decision-making process. Exactly correct.
Now, in our survey results, we found that most senior executives were very much aware of the strategic benefits of big data management, enterprise mobility, utility software models, software as a service, etc. But the adoption rates amongst our respondents were actually relatively low. So in other words, senior executives know that big data helps not only gain more customer insight and help them enter markets more quickly, but it can actually help internal processes such as speeding up collaborative decision making and helping to decentralize decision making process, all of which are necessary for fast time to market.
Right.
How do you look at that disconnect between the appreciation of technology as a tool to help decision making, but the lack of execution?
That's a good way to put it, lack of execution. You're absolutely right. Everyone understands that in order to, especially in a global economy that we all live in, work in every day right now, in order to be competitive, in order to facilitate good customer service, in order to be able to bring products to market faster, we need to streamline the entire process. These are huge strategic making decisions within every corporate entity on the planet right now. So they recognize these big mind-bending issues, if you will. And they understand that technology can facilitate those processes, clean, what we would call order to service processes, where we would have an order being placed and it being delivered on the same day.
Right.
You have customers that have demands for new products, and you want to drive new products to market in a very quick manner. And there are technologies out there that can facilitate doing that. Decision making can be facilitated by having that data in the palm of your hands. And you got to realize we're in a mobile-centric world. Everyone has a smartphone.
Right.
Everyone has a tablet. Most people have more than one. Several of my colleagues have 2 or 3.
Right.
They have powerful tools in their hands, and there's plenty of technology out there that will take back office decision making and put it in the palm of the hands of the people that need to make that decision.
So let's pick up on that as a final thought. Enterprise mobility is seen by executives in Asia as being increasingly important. Not as critical as other technologies. Big data seems to be everybody's first order solution set that they're considering these days. But enterprise mobility is gaining traction. And again, there is appreciation, yet low adoption. As you point out, everyone is very mobile device centric, and there's rising expectations of mobility in the enterprise by employees, by customers, by suppliers.
Very much so.
What do you see in the coming 2 to 3 years are going to be the specific types of applications that enterprises are probably going to look to do just this, to speed up and empower decision-making processes?
Adoption of the technology. Well, there's really 2 parts to that particular question. The first one is, why is this technology, which everyone is using nowadays, not already being used by enterprises, large corporations, to deploy this enterprise mobility into their enterprise? And I think the main reason that sort of the adoption rate has been so slow, even though the need is recognized, or that the strategic need is recognized, is that there's so many technologies out there.
Right.
The waters are so muddy right now, and there's so many offerings out there that it's oftentimes hard for even a CIO who's very understanding of the strategic model to determine what application process or what application model works best to solve their not only immediate business needs, but also their strategic business needs down the road.
Right.
The other side of it is that even though we have very powerful devices in our hands, we have very flexible tools in our hands, the application set that's deployed on them is very simplistic. Think about the applications that run on your iPhone or that run on your iPad. They generally do one thing.
Right.
They have specific purposes. In an enterprise, it's not cost effective to deploy 100 different apps to do 100 small little things, when you'd much rather adopt a platform approach.
Right.
Where you have a platform that can solve all of those problems, but still provide it at the mobile application platform or at the mobile enterprise platform.
Sean, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Ross, for having me.